Hello folks, nice chill one today, not much in the way of background footage, but lots in the way of Hobby Nightmare content. So, if you like what I do, like the video, helps me out in the old algorithm and makes more people, aware of what I do and what we do here on Hobby Nightmares and the wider Northern Exile channel. Let's dive in, shall we? But also, if you want to get access to these videos up to 48 hours early, make sure you're on the Patreon. If you're on there, then you can be quite smug about watching these videos a couple of days early. So there you are. Castan says, "Hi North, hope you and your family are doing well." Everyone's doing fine, thank you. Yeah, everyone's doing well. Touch wood. I'm Castan, and I've been in and out of the hobby since 1995. I can guess what your main army is. I'm going to say it's Black Templars, with Castan being your name. My first game was Necromunda, before expanding into 2nd edition 40k, and after a break to go through college and uni, and with some health issues for both myself and my family, I came back to the hobby in 2007, in an attempt to get out of the shell I'd found myself in whilst I was looking for work post-university. This involved going to my local games workshop, which had moved to a new location due to the old location slowly starting to crumble around them. Some of the vets used to talk of having to cover the tables with umbrellas on particularly rainy days. Wow. I started going for the event games on the weekends or to paint with friends, and attending the regular Veterans Night. I grew to appreciate this me time, even more since my mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer a couple of years later, so my hobby time became more an escape from the feelings of distress that came with that somewhat inevitable diagnosis. Yeah, man, I can imagine. Yeah, that is not good. Do you know what, dude? I kind of struggle with that myself. I've got a personality where if there's an issue in my life, I like to deal with it head on, and I kind of get obsessed, like I bulldog it until it's resolved, which is very exhausting for me and the people around me, which I'm trying not to do. And I've been advised that, the next time something really stressful happens that you've got to deal with, retreat to your hobby time. Use it to de-stress. Don't just sit there and obsess over it. Take your time out. And it's a difficult thing to do, Like, I've known athletes who don't like recovery periods. They want to work all the time. They want to be in the gym. They want to be training. But you can't. You literally can't. Even weight loss, dude. I always want to be eating well and exercising, right? But I have found, since I went to 1 day on, 1 day off in terms of my exercising, I've lost more weight. Like, the weight's fallen off because I'm giving my body a break. It's mandated rest period, dude, even from stress. Very, very important. Anyway, moving on. I'll stop butting in. Alright. She never really understood the hobby much. My mother, I mean. Seeing it as a bit of a waste of money at times, although she did appreciate the fact that I was out and meeting new people. My story is both a showing of how your friends in the hobby can really rally around you, a tale of how I found myself falling away from it as time went on, and my attempts to get back into it today. Okay, interesting. Cool. Fast forward to August 2009. 5th edition had been out a little while, and the 5th edition Guard Codex, my main army, had recently been released. I had a great group of friends I played with, helped arrange large apocalypse games that we do for the final Veterans Night every month for those who wanted, and I had found a steady job that I was able to remain in until relatively recently. Things had been going pretty well, until my mother took a sharp downturn in her condition whilst we were on holiday. A trip which resulted in me having to travel home on our planned flight alone while my parents returned in an air ambulance a week later. Wow. Dude, that had to be stressful. Jeez. The week after they returned home involved daily hospital visits, spending the evening with my mother and occasionally my grandparents as we came to visit her. Although she was in hospital, things were looking like they were about to turn around. At the end of one visit, which was the day before my gaming night, I told my mother that I'd see her tomorrow. She told me no, saying that I'd seen enough of the hospital and that I should go to the store and see my friends. I begrudgingly accepted. Our family has always been close, and so seeing my mother like this, although upsetting, I felt I should be there for her. The gaming night came, and while I did attend and did get to chat with my friends, all of the games tables were full, and I stayed the full night. My heart sank. Although I appreciated the company of my friends, I felt like I should have been there for my mother. Yeah, I bet you felt like you kind of wasted your time when you didn't even get to game, right? You know? Did people at the store know what was going on? Because I'm guessing a lot of them would have turned around and made sure you had your gaming time if that was the case, you know what I mean? I'm just saying. Although I appreciated the company of my friends, I felt like I should have been there for my mother. When I got home, I was able to speak with her on the phone, and I let her know I'd see her tomorrow for visiting hours, as per usual. I never got the chance. Whilst in the lift up to my office the next morning, my dad calls me up on my mobile, clearly upset. The hospital had just called, and my mother had passed overnight. My manager drove me home immediately, and I travelled to the hospital with my dad and my mother's parents, and were told she'd been found by one of the nurses that morning. Our world as a family shattered, but I tried to be the strong, supportive one for the rest of my family. Needless to say, the hobby was as far away from my thoughts as possible at that time. Well, sure, yeah, exactly, yeah. I'd booked a ticket to go to Games Day that year, which was the week after the funeral. I felt bad about leaving my father alone, but he insisted that I go and spend time with my friends. I did, and everyone tried their best to help me enjoy the day despite my obvious mood. One person even took my Guard Codex to the design studio stores and had it signed by the author. This was back in the days where they didn't mind crediting the writers. Yeah, dude, that's something that really... If you're a writer, do not work for Games Workshop. You're gonna get next to minimum wage, and nobody's ever gonna credit you with your work. To the point that other people will say that they... I've got friends like this, dude. I've got friends who wrote stuff for Games Workshop, and they've come across people crediting their book and saying, no, I wrote that. Yeah. No, you didn't. I wrote it. You know what I mean? Like, no, yeah. It's not worth it, man. Your name is not out there, and you're getting paid peanuts, you know? I had a good time, and I tried to get myself back into some kind of routine again. Unfortunately, as they say, bad luck comes in threes. Within the next 6 months, both of my grandmothers also passed away, in separate incidents within a few weeks of each other. Again, I tried to be the stoic one, helping the rest of the family get through it. Dad retired from his job shortly afterwards, and wanting to help keep him active, I started to introduce him to the hobby. I knew he probably wouldn't have much interest in playing, but I figured I could at least show him what I did with all of these boxes of plastic he saw me coming back and forth with, and the community that grows around it. He came with me to events like Forge World Open Days, Games Day, and other events, saying that he never realised how popular the hobby was, and that it attracted such a wide range of people. He got to know various members of my gaming group, and still speaks with a lot of them today. However, as I said, I did find myself eventually pulling away from the hobby. When gaming stopped at my local Games Workshop, despite the opening of another local store, which was way more gaming space than Games Workshop ever had, I couldn't get into any kind of groove. I found myself hopping from game system to game system, buying heavily into several systems, but never actually taking the plunge for a game, and instead ending up with a huge pile of plastic, metal and resin for 40k, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Bolt Action, Flames of War, multiple role-playing games, TCGs, anything I could get my hands on. I just couldn't settle into any of them. Do you know what I think you're doing, dude? You know what I think you're doing? It seems to me like you never processed the grief here. It really seems to me you haven't processed your grief. Like you've been there for everybody else, and you're kind of trying to fill in your grief with hobby time and hobby space. It's something that reminds you of your mother and things like that, so you're going into that. You know what I mean? That's how it seems from what you've been writing here. My painting was non-existent, having a ton of painting supplies, but rarely, if ever, using them. I had starter editions for at least 4 editions of 40k that I never played a single game in. I eventually settled into RPGs as a somewhat regular thing, but even then, the groups would hop between games after a multi-month campaign in each one. Eventually, I was finding myself slipping into a bit of a depression, as I found myself pulling away again and dropping out of the gaming group. Okay. Time and work constraints with my RPG group meant we went from meeting at a location to playing online on Discord and Roll20. Work was beginning to become more stressful, and the combination of everything found me struggling to do anything but just lay in bed every single day. Anytime I tried to shake myself out of it, I couldn't settle on what to do. The lockdown and working from home with little actual physical interaction with anybody only intensified it, and eventually I decided to seek some help. And from the assessment as I went through it, what had happened, they assessed that although I had meant well by trying to be stoic and the rock of the family, I hadn't given myself time to grieve. Dude, just give me my degree in psychology now! Come on! I don't want a degree in psychology, dude, don't worry about it. And I literally... lucky guess. And so the combination of that, work stresses, and some new health worries for my father, which resulted in the dreaded C word again, and left me an anxious, stressed, depressed wreck. Combine that with a drastic drop in my own personal fitness, no movement and takeaway food is a terrible combo, I do not recommend, and things have been pretty grim. Thankfully, I found your channel earlier this year, and along with other hobby channels, it encouraged me to try and get back on my feet again. I've started walking, although slow and steady at first. Being obese and having arthritis makes it a bit of a struggle at times, to try and improve my fitness and mental health. Dude, you know what you should do? With winter coming, a lot of people fall away from like doing walking and stuff. Get to a gym. Get to a gym and get on a treadmill. It's nice and warm in most gyms, or at least not freezing, you know what I mean? It's a nice temperature. You go in and set yourself on a low speed and just get the joints and muscles moving in your legs. And you've got arthritis, right? But you can go at a slow speed, you know, maybe go on a bit of an incline. And I don't know what age you are, but look at what heart rate you should be at to lose weight. And maybe try and keep your heart rate in that zone. It's not very high. It would surprise you how low it is, actually. Like, mine is, I'm probably younger than you, and I only need to keep my heart rate around 125, 130 per minute to start losing weight, to start burning fat. So you may be a lot lower than that, do you know what I mean? So, look into it. Definitely look into it. I think you'll be much happier with yourself. Even if you just lost like a stone, you know? I've reconnected with people from the gaming group, and although not all of them are still in the local area, and some of them are even working at Games Workshop HQ now, from what I've heard, it's nice to be able to contact them, and once I'm more healthy, I hope to get some more games in of either 10th edition or Horus Heresy with them. It'll be nice to be able to actually roll some dice in combat again. Or lots of dice if I'm playing with my guard. Thanks for reading, and thank you for everything you've done on your channel for mental health. And I hope this wasn't too long and boring. Castan. No, it wasn't, man. It was good. Very, very, very good. And, you know, you're on the right path. I will say that. You're definitely on the right path. You know when people say the first thing you need to do, the first road to recovery is admitting you've got a problem. That's not just for alcoholics and drug addicts and things, right? That's also for mental health. A lot of the time, you need to sit back and say, listen, I've got an issue here, you know? And if you've been able to do that and start to work on ways already to fix it, you're already way ahead of some of the most successful people I've known, right? I've known some really successful people to start out in a worse place than you, in complete denial, right? In complete denial that they've got a problem with mental health, you know? And they then go away, they get some help, they get some therapy, or they talk to their friends, right? They start going to the gym, they start eating properly, they start wearing appropriate clothes, they start taking pride in their own appearance. Even if they don't have jobs, they do that. And eventually, that kind of thing, if you keep that discipline, it starts to eke into the rest of your life. It's like a reverse. Do you know what you just said there about fast food and not moving? Well, you would think that you're on your own, you're not harming anybody. Well, yeah, you are. You're harming you, number one. But that kind of an attitude does seep into everywhere else. Can you imagine, Castan, can you imagine in that period when you were, you know, sitting at home, eating fast food, not doing anything with your life? Can you imagine if somebody came along and said, hey, Castan, do you want a job interview? Here you go. Here is a job interview where you get to run your own gaming studio or whatever, right? And you're like, wow, that's my ideal job. Do you reckon you'd get that job? I don't. You know, because you'd be going in there looking your worst, feeling your worst, and it comes across. But if you start, the building blocks of your life can't be anywhere else but you. This is what people want to run before they can walk. All the time in mental health, especially men. Come across this all the time. You always want to run before you can walk. You always want things right now. You want to be solving the issue. You want to be solving the problem. That's not how it works. Slowly but surely, add things as you go. Start eating properly, number 1. Then start going to the gym on a low speed. When you go in to start using the treadmill, you don't go in there on a full speed running, do you? No, you start walking. And you walk for months. I'm still walking now. I walk at a brisk pace, like I'm almost running and I'm sweating my bollocks off. But I'm still only walking. I don't like running. Sucks. Right? So I'm still losing weight doing it. You slowly build your resistance. But as long as you're on that journey, as long as you're on that path, eventually you're going to get there. It's just law of averages, dude. And if you're going into life with that kind of an attitude, and then you get that interview, you've got a much better chance of getting it. And if you don't get it, you've got a much better chance of rocking that hit to the face. Going, okay, I didn't get that one. I'll get the next one, right? But if you're just going to go home and sulk and sit in front of, like, some models or the computer and just eat junk, yeah, man, it's not good. It ain't good at all. Anyway, you're on a good path. That's the main thing. Alright, Sergeant Nitwit Grave Eater says, how do, Northern? Sergeant Nitwit Grave Eater here. I've been listening to your channel for some years now, usually while at work, and I'm more of a lurker on the Discord, though I do post occasionally. Okay, cool. I first got into this hobby as a kid, when Lord of the Rings was coming out, and the Middle-earth magazines were coming out. One of my earlier nightmares comes from when I joined a Warhammer group at my school. Just thought I'd drop a little nightmare I had for now. I've got a few I can send, most of them Warhammer based. Yeah, do so. The last one has a hobby in it, but it isn't the source of the nightmare. But writing about that one may serve as a sort of catharsis to me, as it's one of the roughest times in my life, but I'm not quite ready to do so yet, so I'll begin with a more humdrum story. Okay. My first story is related to Magic the Gathering. Oh boy. Oh boy. Dude, I'm going to be honest with you, before we go anywhere with this story, I've yet to go to a place and say, hey, let's go to Sheffield for the day. Hey guys, what's your Magic the Gathering scene like? They all say, it's shit. Everyone's a dickhead. In Liverpool, what's your Magic the Gathering scene like? It's shit. Everyone's a dickhead. And wherever you go. I don't know, and I don't know whether this is just salty people, or it's just a prevailing attitude in that hobby. But by God, dude, I've not had one person, like, in most areas when I go and I say, hey, what's the 40k grouping like? You'll go, oh yeah, it's cool, man. We got, like, you know, good people, you know. Just odd. Anyway, the game I discovered seems to have the highest concentration of sweaty tryhards I've come across so far. I started Magic on the tablet games. So you mean on your iPad or whatever it is, okay. I quite enjoyed it and had a friend that used to play at a club, so I decided, as the game was fun, that I'd join it. Naturally, the games are bloody expensive when the main method of play is to set the rotation building decks and the sets that are currently allowed to be used. I also dragged my cousin into it, so we started going to a local Friday night Magic group. For the first couple of months, it was alright. We would turn up on a Friday, play our games, win some, lose some, and just enjoy it. There were the same 3 or 4 faces that would win every single week. So, when we faced them, we would naturally get crushed with our newbie decks, getting absolutely annihilated. But after the first game or two, we would land with the usual casuals, so we would end up with a really fun and clutch games after taking a beating in the first game or two. So it was a non-issue to us because we just wanted to have fun. Well, okay, I'm going to say this to you, guy. We haven't gone anywhere yet in the Hobby Nightmare, so to speak, but them winning doesn't mean it's a toxic hobby. I'm just going to say that, right? If you just want to have fun in your hobby, that's good. That's fine. Great. Okay. Fine. But if somebody else wants to win, they're not toxic. I've come across this attitude a lot. I'm not saying that's what you've got, but that phrase there just reminded me of it. Do you know what I mean? Trying to win a game isn't toxic. Alright, you know. So 6 months or so after starting, a new set came out, where I decided to split a box with a friend. This will be the first time I did this. I think the box was called Innistrad or something. Okay. Me and the mate that got me into the game initially opened half each and split what we wanted in this set. We checked the prices and such to make sure things stayed fair and such. For anybody that that needs me to go into this, there are a number of white cards in this set that I quite like. Sorry, dude, the way you've written this is not... Okay, let me just... For anybody that this means anything to, I'm going to rephrase that for you. For anybody that this means anything to, there are a number of white cards in this set that I quite liked. So I decided that I would build my new deck from this series of cards and did some research into other cards that could fit into this deck. After a few weeks of getting hold of various cards and such, I made a new deck and I was happy, and I decided what I'd take into the club and try it for the first time. This, naturally, is where the nightmare starts. Okay. All of this effort for a bunch of cards? I mean, I just don't understand. The first opponent I was paired with was the guy that was one of the better players, but also the organiser. Let's call him Bitch. It'll be clear why soon. So, we shuffled, cut decks, and started the game. I went first. Played my very first card of this deck. He looked at it, huffed, mumbled something like, "Oh great, one of those decks." Looked at his hand and immediately folded the game and gave me the win. 1 card in. So it wasn't the best start, as I was wanting to actually play. So he started game 2 of that round, after he had changed his deck up. We started, he went first this time. He played a card against me, similar to the last time I played a card. By turn 4, he had done the same thing. He huffed and folded his hand again, and gave me the win. One of the worst wins I'd ever had, but also the first win against one of the better players there. Dude, how childish. How childish. I've had friends like this in 40k, man. I swear. Like, you get to like turn 2 and they can already see how it's going, and they just like, nah. Even though they've got most of their models left, you know. I used to have that in university. Like, I had a Kaldor Drago Death Star, right? So it was something like 8 or 9 paladins with Drago, right? Powerful unit. But if I got that onto a center objective, or, you know, I got it somewhere where the opponent really didn't want them, there were some players in my group who would just fold, and it was lame. It was really, because they still had a really good chance of winning, but they just fold and be like, no, it's not worth it, it's not worth it, not worth carrying on, you win. You know, it's not even going to be close. How do you know? It's still close now. You know, do you know what I mean? I don't know, man. I don't get players like that. I just don't get them. Alright, in game 2 I was paired against the guy that won most weeks. He would go to tournaments, and he played all the time. His personality was basically, I'm good at this card game. Tall, skinny, blonde, arrogant, and with the social skills of a mushroom. So, that'll be his name. Anyway, we started. We actually played to a conclusion this time, and Mushroom won the first game, changing his deck up for the second. I won the second. He changed his deck up again, taking a fair bit of time each time, and we started game 3. It was closer than I'd have expected. I reasonably enjoyed it, even though I could sense some frustration from Mushroom. I don't think he liked being pushed by a newbie quite so much. I did what I could to enjoy myself. In the end, I lost. I didn't mind, as I knew this guy was good, so I took what I could from the experience. Anyway, towards the end of the evening, I noticed him talking to the organiser, accusing me of slow playing. Wow, okay. Looking back, I wished I'd have said something, but I was younger and less assertive at the time, so instead of his usual first, he came about 6th, which I did chuckle to myself a bit, but realising that the main body of this club was run by Bitch and Mushroom, I decided, bollocks to this, I ain't spending any more time and money on a game like this for such a terrible community. These two weren't the only ones who were that bad, they were just the players in my own nightmare. My cousin had issues too with some of the others. I decided I'd just spend some time away working on my Warhammer, rather than splitting my hobby time and money between the two. I was in the process of painting my Grey Knights at the time. I have long since quit 40k for Age of Sigmar, OPR and Flesh and Blood, but I know you appreciate whenever somebody does the Knights. This was during 7th edition. I was spanked every time I used them in. Dude, really? In 7th? Grey Knights were really good, at least at the start. Just a silly nightmare to start off with. I have a few more. The main one based around our own Jensen, and who I and a number of other local players had some fun times with, even in casual co-op games. I'll post this later, but thanks for all you do. A more pro-male mental health group is sorely needed to help lift people that get often ignored. Especially in this nerd sphere where people are usually just written off as weirdos and misfits. Well, no. You are weirdos and misfits, but you're my weirdos and misfits. There's a difference, you know? Keep up the good work, mate. Hope this read well and wasn't too difficult to read. I am dyslexic. Dude, really? For somebody who's dyslexic, that was I know I stumbled a few times on your, different words you were using, but dude, that's really well written for somebody with dyslexia. I am dyslexic, but I make an effort to work on it and not let it affect my writing too much. Thank you, Sergeant Nitwit Gravy Eater, not Grave Eater. Okay, cool. Well, thank you, man. Really cool hobby nightmare there. I enjoyed that. That was good. Yeah, send some more in. And don't worry about your writing, man. You're actually doing well. Moving on. Matt says, Hi North, Matt here. Firstly, keep doing what you're doing, regardless if the content is a rant, comparison videos, or nightmare-fueled tidbits. All are informative and entertaining. I enjoy your dulcet tones whilst painting and model building. Thank you very much, sir. In response to your video, I would say my own personal view is summarised in one word, is conflicted. Okay, let me just check what it was in response to. Because you literally sent this in response to one of my videos, did you not? Yeah, War for the Soul of Warhammer 40k. So, this is your response to my video, War for the Soul of 40k. Cool. It was last week, by the way, if you guys don't know. I love the setting, the old and some of the new lore that has been released, the community, and even some recent events that I've organised. I am not a fully committed tournament player. I lose more than I win, if I am brutally honest, but can play both narratively and competitively when suitably motivated. However, here is my conflict. I'm guessing this is the nightmare. Their business practices, Games Workshops, are indeed driving them into a doom cycle of rinse and repeat actions that will drive out the older players and put off the majority of newer players they intend to recruit into the hobby. Either through extortionate pricing increases, paywalling a set of rules being lackluster hardback rulebooks and digital versions which are out of date before they even drop, at least the digital editions are modified regularly I guess, or inciting animosity with the fanbase. They are their own worst enemy at this point. Case in point, Disney. The House of Mouse is currently further down that doom spiral than Games Workshop are, but using them as a barometer for similar courses of actions, I can see them suffering an equally catastrophic turn of events. The only difference being that Disney can absorb the impact, like Sony has done with that Concord game fiasco. I was going to get the game as it happens until I did more research and changed my mind. Yeah, I mean, this is happening a lot, right? This is happening a lot, and people need to be very, very, very careful because people are doing research now. Nerds are getting a lot more conservative with their money. People are doing research. They're actually going about their business and saying, listen, is this something I want to get into? Like, actually want to get into? Man, I'm there with you. I'm there with you. And that's what they did with Concord. And that's what they're going to do with Ghost of Yotai, the next Ghost of Tsushima game. They're going to look into it, see that Erika Ishii woman's on the front and go, nah, not for me. Woke activist on the front, nah, I'm good. Thank you. Companies need to be careful. You need to realise who your audience is. And I think a lot of these companies kind of forget, unfortunately. All these highly successful firms are catering towards a minority of society and leaving the desires of the majority of their fan base to look to the past with rose-tinted glasses. I remember speaking to a Games Workshop staffer in my local Games Workshop store pre-7th edition, and without his local community supporting him, the shop would almost surely have failed and been closed down. It was the community of local hobbyists that propped up his sales figures most of the time, and I included myself in that number, and likely spent more than I could actually afford at one time or another. Nowadays, I cannot recall the last time I spent money in said store. The local community has been driven away by aggressive sales practices, by a collection of managers who recycle quicker than milk has time to turn to cheese out in the sun. The golden age of drawing in new players by effectively watching me and a friend play a 1,000-point game, then taking time to talk a potential player who saw us, has gone. The camaraderie we shared and the entertainment of utterly coring a guardsman with the last cannon beam was special. Not only because we got to share our hobby time with each other, but with strangers who saw an escape to whatever real-life troubles they were dealing with at the time. Yeah, I agree. I will also say, like cities like mine. Okay, so I went to a store the other week, okay, and I was speaking to the manager there, just having a little talk to him, and I had been speaking to the guys. I shit you not. There was one trans person walking around in the store, and I didn't bat an eye. I was like, yeah, whatever. Hi man, how's it going? Got all my stuff. Yeah, I got some models. Got them to the counter. Yeah, man, oh, thank you. And we got chatting away. We're like, okay, yeah, how's it going? How's the store going? And as most store managers are, they like to have a little conflab because people just want to talk about models, and we were talking about all sorts of things, football, you name it. Anyway, within 5 minutes of this conversation, he tells me when our conversation gets round to the store that he's a trans ally, and his store is very, doesn't matter who you are, what you are, you can come in here and have fun. And I looked at myself, who is the straightest, normalest, average NPC white bloke you could come across, right? And I'm just looking at him going, and what? Why did you feel the need? You've now been on this diatribe for 3 minutes. Like, he literally went on and on and on and on, and I'm like, do I look trans? Do I look like? And nobody else could really hear us. I'm like, dude, do I look like I'm part of that? Whatever it is. Why do you feel the need to tell me this? This is how crazy it is. People get in front of it now, going, no. I'm so inclusive. I'm so inclusive. Look at me. I'm like, dude, calm down. Like, I don't care. Do you have models for me to buy? If you do, here is my card. Let's do a transaction. Like, what is going on? So I think it's incredibly important that people kind of read the room. So what he did there, Ghost of Yatai is doing. What he did there, Concord did, right? They were so inclusive, they made something that they thought was for everybody, and it ended up being for nobody. And I applaud the motivations behind most of these decisions. You want people to be included in what you're doing. Okay. Well, in reality, that means you want to make more money, right? But what people don't seem to understand is, as I've just said, if you try to make a product that suits everybody at once, you end up making not a lot of money, if anything at all, right? One of the most wide-ranging things was Harry Potter back in the day, right? Everybody was into it. Yeah, but still, she had a vision. Like, J.K. Rowling had a vision, right? She did a thing, and it struck a chord with everybody. That's great. That's fine. But those are lightning in a bottle experiences. You don't get that very often. And trying to manufacture that by making a hobby for everybody doesn't work. It does not work. You market your game to an audience, you go for that target audience, and you also say, hey, everybody's welcome here. If you like what we're doing here, absolutely welcome. We would love to have you. That's what you do, right? Anyway, let me move on. The same can be said regarding the issues with independent animations, lore writers, and narrative players. I write lore and independent stories set within the 40k universe, and I'm branching out into other systems, Conflict 47 and Dread for examples. The reason? I love the setting. The once nurtured community online are now shunned for IP infringement, and sniping of cease and desist notifications sent to a number of individuals over the past years has been an exercise in how to alienate a fan base. I agree with that. Dude, that was the biggest fumble ever. You protect your IP, yeah, but you pick your battles, dude. Come on. You know, some dude doing, you know, Emperor's got a text-to-speech device. Come on, dude. Just... Nah, man. No. That's not the kind of thing you go after. It really isn't. That's free advertisement. You know? Absolutely free advertisement. Idiots. Given my choice of writing subject matter is pretty grimdark, the other style of writing and lore content for Warhammer 40,000 is very fitting. Yet, it is not what Games Workshop wants anymore. They follow the Amazon model, particularly in the Rings of Power series fiasco. Games Workshop, in order to not follow the same pitfalls as the Tolkienverse, need to stand firm and say, this is our IP, you work with us, we do not work for you. And yet, they do not. They capitulate, they give in to corporate pressure, and end up blaming the fanbase for not following suit. The fanbase merely holds them accountable for their own actions. Hobbyists still vote with their feet in the end, leaving them in similar positions they were back in the dark days of pre-8th edition, with an overpriced collection of models, limited fanbase willing to spend their money on their product, and instead of either reverting to obsolete systems or other systems entirely. As for me, I enjoy writing for Warhammer 40,000, yet after being turned down several times, I will likely keep my content online via independent sources. If they went after said lore writers and content producers for daring to dream about their product in a different way, then they will be then following the way of the House of Mouse. I long to be wrong, but I can see the signs and actions beginning to take shape. It would take a concerted effort from the higher-ups, perhaps a change of management in general, to revert the damage they have done, but fingers crossed. With the success of Space Marine 2 and future animated content releasing alongside physical products, that they may just see their woes turn around. I will work on my pile of shame, but will likely source some additional armies via 3D printing and independent sellers. I have jumped over to the other side of Lenton Road recently, and I'm really enjoying what products Warlord Games have to offer. Bolt Action and Conflict 47 are to say but a few, and given how helpful the staff are, and willing to allow games to be played in their major stores, is enough justification to test their products. I also enjoy OPR, and have a number of friends who play the systems presently. Dude, you're really lucky. I can share with you some of my literary work that have been given to the audio drama treatment if you wish. I'll put their links in a different email. Do so, man, yeah. Let me know your thoughts on what I have shared, and if you wish to use this in your own content, you're okay to do so. Best regards, Matt. Cheers, man. Yeah, dude, that is a far encompassing hobby nightmare for me. like, it's literally all the way out there, right? I agree with basically everything you've said. Basically, I'd be interested to see what people in the comment section think about what you've said. But yeah, I agree. In the most part, I agree. I agree that you know, it is a really weird juxtaposition where we have a hobby where you're supposed to be able to really express yourself and do your models in your own way. You know, the famous Games Workshop phrase of, you can paint your Space Marines with pink polka dots if you want. It's up to you. Well, yeah, okay, cool. Well, can I write a story based in 40k then? No. Well, why not? Because it's copyright infringement, you can't do that. Okay, cool. Well, can I do a conversion from one of your kits? No. Not in one of our competitions. Why? It's not an official Citadel model. Well, but you just said it's about expressing myself. But only in the way we want. Like, you know, it's like, well, you're either one or the other. Shit will get off the pot. I think that's the thing that annoys me the most. You're either one or the other, Games Workshop. Have some balls. If you don't want us writing our own stuff and doing our own animations, just say, listen, The hobby isn't about that anymore. Go away. Buy the models and shut up and do them exactly the way we want you to do them. In fact, only Ultramarines are allowed now. We don't allow any Marines but Ultramarines in our events. Grow some balls and just say that, rather than saying that the hobby's about expression and doing what you want when you want, when it isn't, is it? It isn't. Anyway, stop attacking your own fan base. Just fucking irks me. Anyway, now I'm suitably annoyed. I'm going to go and write another hobby rant for tomorrow. I love you a long time. I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.